So this is really interesting because in Dark Force Rising there is a particular scene that is a big continuity error. So going through the EU for the first time, like we're hitting there's not many continuity errors, but when they are,
surprisingly no.
You know, they're pretty interesting. Regardless, let's jump into it. So we're gonna pick right back up chapter 19. I don't really know how we should be doing these, but we'll just do what we've been doing because it works to some degree.
Yeah.
I'm gonna kind of walk through the chapters and you're gonna interject at various points.
Feel.
Yes, as you feel. Okay, so chapter 19 here, I'm just gonna look at my notes. Chapter 19, this is where Mara Jade is returning to Card. There's an Imperial ambush. It seems like this big betrayal. I don't know if it's a spoiler, but basically you find out, no, it's not a betrayal. They kind of make you question whether it's gonna be or not. But definitely Card and his men, you know, really Mara's friends, co-workers, I don't know what you call them. They definitely think that she betrayed him.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's how it looks.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you see Mara and Thrawn, kind of the next little section. You have Mara Jade and Thrawn together, and this whole crazy thing. She's like yelling at Thrawn.
Yeah, she's
getting up in his face.
There's only she reminds me. There's only one person that she really reminds me of, and it's like Princess Leia. How like she just doesn't put up with crap. And so not like he was writing her to be like Princess Leia, but there's not very many people who will stand up to someone in a position like that and go off on them. So it just reminded me of Princess Leia, especially in A New Hope.
And what's crazy is it was like a step further than that too. Like she force chokes him.
Yeah.
That's what was so crazy to me.
I mean, to be fair, Leia didn't know how to do that.
True.
Maybe she would have.
But that's it wasn't even just standing up, it was force choking too. It was like like you were saying, that's just so wild. It was wild to me because like you know,
I was like, oh,
Rook is choking her out and then she force chokes Thrawn and you know, he's kind of like struggling to get air out and tells Rook to release her. I'm like, dang. But Thrawn still somehow, you know, staying composed through it all.
Yeah, that guy's a whole nother level too.
Yeah, and essentially they're given this, she is given this ultimatum to join the Empire or be given to Jeruis. And so she's kind of at this crossroads, like, what do I do? And basically it's kind of like if Card participates in like handing over the fleet, he gets paid. And so it's just...
So they say.
Yeah, because she basically is like, hey, you know, like, what if we do this with Card? Anyway, this whole thing, and you're just kind of seeing Thrawn's like, I'm doing things my way.
Yeah, he has his own plan.
Yeah, it's not the old way anymore. So basically, Mara is being kind of like led to her ship to leave. Or actually, I think it's doing like an officer's thing. This whole thing's going on. But she gets through this kind of like back door into some like Imperial terminals, and this is where she's using like
the codes.
Yeah, the Emperor's Hands codes that kind of like let her go undetected, and she basically just finds out where Card is. And Timothy Zahn kind of leads you to believe that she's going to Jeruis to recruit his help. It's kind of what it seems like, because it's like there's no way she would talk to Luke at all.
I don't know. I figured she was going to Luke.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah, because when I was going through it, I was like, I had a thought of that, but I was just thinking she was going to go try and recruit Jeruis because of how she wants to kill Luke. I mean, granted, I know, I kind of knew where things were going, but...
I don't know. No one seems to really like Jeruis in the book. Like,
yeah.
Thrawn doesn't really respect him, Pelion, Luke's super, I mean, we'll get more into it. Luke's confused by him. R2 hates him. Mara doesn't like him. I'm like, this guy just, no one likes him.
That's true. There's not like a single outside of Jeruis. I don't even know if he likes himself.
I know.
I mean, outside of Jeruis, I don't know if there's a single positive perception of him.
Yeah, Thrawn's just using him.
now I'm kind of feeling bad for him. You know, he's like, no, I can't really feel bad for him. I think about it for a second and I'm like, yeah, he's this old crazy man.
But that's why I thought she was going to Luke. Because I was like, her and Luke have worked together.
Yeah.
They've successfully gone on a mission or whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, so what's crazy about this is she gets caught in the midst of all this, you know, regardless of who she's going to go help. That's kind of in between the lines at this point.
Right.
She gets caught and basically she gets taken like out of this special area. Then she runs into one of Card's guys and she wants a ship and Ysalamari. And then you find out she wants Luke's help, you know, and so everything's coming to pass.
Right.
And then in chapter 20, it goes right to Jeruis, Sabaoth, and Luke, and it's just in total insanity. Poor Luke.
Yes, I love Luke in this chapter.
Yeah, he's very confused.
Just confused.
Yeah, until the very end, he's very confused.
And I like how he's having this like dialogue in his mind the entire time. He's like, "This is not what I was expecting. This is nothing like other, you know, Jedis that I've worked with." And it's just, I love that how he writes that you get to see like inside what people are thinking. It's not just what's happening in front, like it's not just the situations at hand, but it's like what are they thinking? What's
for sure.
What's going through their minds, because it just builds the story. I don't know if that's normal. This is like the first sci-fi books I've ever read.
Yeah, that's crazy to me. Yeah, I've read quite a bit, but I mean, it depends on the writer. Each writer has their different flares and stuff. So Timothy Zahn definitely has a style that he writes in.
And you get like the full picture.
Yeah.
I like that.
And so, yeah, what's a little different for him is this kind of like third person perspective, and then he'll like flip to the first with character. So it's kind of a decentralized story. It's kind of interesting because it's
and he does a lot with Mara and Thrawn as well.
Yeah, because it's not like this person's story. It's kind of like a collective story. Pretty interesting. Right. But basically, you find out Sabaoth has this like judgment seat set up for these villagers. It's really weird. And basically, these villagers come and they have to, they bring disputes or kind of like penance to Jeruis. And part of his training, or part of Luke's training, is that with Jeruis, it's not asked for, but anyway, he has to settle some disputes. And you find out Sabaoth basically views anybody who's not a Jedi as like a primitive species that
chopped liver.
It's just like, this is like a beetle, you know, like this thing beetle. doesn't matter. Yeah.
Except for we were watching dung beetles.
Yeah, we were watching a elephant documentary.
And they were so strong, and they were big dungs, bigger than themselves, on their hands. So they're actually pretty cool. So we'll compare them to something else.
Yeah. To be fair, Timothy Zahn does not mention dung beetles. That was just a random.
That was just me.
I went away from dogs and cats because you'd be offended, and you got excited about dung beetles. But basically, you could say it this way: Jeruis wants to be like this divine ruler and judge over all the people that aren't Jedi. And Sabaoth is just on this high horse, this soapbox all the time about the Jedi being hated and all of this. And it's like, no, I think it's just you know, when you think about it. But this is where Luke starts to question. He's like, well, Yoda never talked about that. Obi-Wan never talked about that. And he's like, even Vader never talked about it. Like, all these things are going through. It's like, this has never been brought up before. So maybe it's not
maybe this guy's crazy.
Normal. And he even questions it. And yeah, Jeruis is like not happy about the questioning.
But good for him for like saying, wait a minute, and like actually speaking up.
Yeah, for sure. But basically, Jeruis wants wants Leia and Luke. Yeah, but Luke's just like, yeah, I just don't trust you at all. And this chapter ends.
But he makes it feel like they have no other option. He's like, I'm your only option. Like, yeah, I'm your savior. You can't make it without me. And he's not just saying that, I don't think, to like get to Luke. Like, he believes that. Like, Sabaoth believes he's like this amazing specimen.
Yeah, he's totally insane. Yeah, totally insane. I really like how this chapter ends, actually, because this is where you have Mara Jade having, it's not really this dream of Palpatine, it's this nightmare.
Oh,
or this like this trance, yeah, but basically she's been having it for like 5 years, I think you find out, and it's kill Luke Skywalker. So it's this
with his voice, it's so creepy.
Yeah, it's pretty creepy.
No wonder that's what she wants to do.
Yeah. But then what's really crazy is when her ship, it kind of ties right into the next chapter, so it's kind of the blending of 20 and 21.
Right.
When her ship arrives on Jomark, like
some R2 stuff.
Sabaoth is like eating all these stones at her, just like crazy.
Yeah, that was weird.
Well, it's like she's flying in, he's like force chucking these boulders at her to bring her down. Like, he is a crazy old man.
He's like, get off my property.
Get off my island.
Get off my lawn,
Yeah, totally crazy. But she does this really crazy maneuver that she learned to make it look like she crash landed, but she didn't. It's basically like, she's like going down, and she does this kind of like slam down to like save her ship. It's kind of cool. There's a lot of action in this portion. Then R2 is there.
I love R2.
It was kind of weird though. I want to see how did you read it? Because I kind of read it like she like grabbed him but didn't know it was him. Thought he was like, because he was like in the rocks, or like he was like invisible or something.
Yeah, it was something very weird. I didn't understand the beginning interaction, honestly.
Yeah, he like grabbed her and like she got shocked or something, and it's like, oh, it's R2, and it's like, how? Right. And R2 is protecting the X-wing. And then she sees the X-wing, so it's this whole kind of like,
oh, I know you.
Yeah, it was a little weird for me. It was a little muddy. Maybe I'd have to go through it again to make sense, but
right.
But then Mara and Sabaoth meet basically when she climbs up this huge cliff, and they talk. But I wanted to read this. I actually had to like put this in the notes because Timothy Zahn had this description of Sabaoth. And I think this is Mara's thoughts, and I'm like, this is really good. It's an unstable edge of madness with a hard steel behind it. He was ruthless and calculating with a sense of supreme power and supreme confidence underlying it all, like hearing the Emperor again. I'm like, dang, that's a pretty good... I felt like that was the description of Sabaoth in particular here. I'm like, that's probably one of the
that rounds him out pretty well.
Best portions that you've used in the book so far. Yeah, basically in this is where Luke further questions Sabaoth and what he's...
Mara just talks boldly again. She's not really afraid of confrontation.
Yeah, and it's a weird encounter. It is, because like Luke's still
a little confused and hesitant.
Yeah.
But he's definitely like, I think by the end of this chapter, the next one, he's like, yeah, this guy's...
Yeah,
he gets there.
At the end of this one, for sure, yeah. Because this is where Sabaoth starts, like, turning on Luke and attacking and all this with, like, force lightning.
Oh, yeah.
And he pulls out his lightsaber, and he's, like, deflecting it. It's this really cool thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I think I read this right.
Okay, here we go.
Totally a crazy, like, out of left field thing.
Oh.
R2 shoots Sabaoth, freaking blasts him with the X-wing.
I mean, that's definitely in character,
right?
Seems like something R2.
It's like R2's been with the X-wing, Luke is fighting off the Force lightning, Mara's doing her thing.
He would.
And then he's like, boom, and like knocks him stone cold, and like puts like a huge hole in the ground, and like old man's laying there knocked out.
And then they peace out.
Yeah, they do.
That's the time to do that.
But basically, Luke's like, oh, dang. Like, that's not what it says, but that's my interpretation.
You should write a Star Wars novel.
And then Luke said, oh, dang. That'd be funny. So then there's this conflict where Mara's, and it's really reminiscent, I know I'm kind of all over it. It's really reminiscent kind of like things that happened in the prequels and the original trilogy. Even though this was written before the prequels, doesn't matter. Mara wants to kill him.
Right.
And Luke's like, no, we should save him because I've seen people turn.
Right.
Where I was siding with Mara.
Get rid of this guy.
Cut off his head.
Oh, goodness.
We gotta make sure he's dead. He's a crazy old Jedi. You can't trust him. But regardless, Luke joins her to save Card. So, yay!
And we do have, I remember when I read, I stopped reading, and I don't know where you were, I don't know if I texted you or asked you in person.
We did talk about it.
Yeah. Let's discuss that.
Yeah. So this is really interesting because in Dark Force Rising there is a particular scene that is a big continuity error. So going through the EU for the first time, like we're hitting there's not many continuity errors, but when they
surprisingly no.
You know, they're pretty interesting, and obviously there's tiers of canon and George can do his own thing. But
just George can.
Yeah, and so this is where Vader lost his right hand at the hand of the Emperor after the losses on the Yavin, the Death Star. So basically, the whole idea was like it was like a punishment to take his hand.
Right, but we know from Attack of the Clones, he loses it on Geonosis.
Yeah. So that was an interesting continuity error that George decided not to go with, even though all this stuff is licensed, and it's not a deal breaker for me. And then this gets into
maybe Vader cut it off again, or maybe the Emperor cut it off again.
Yeah, so I was thinking about that though, but I'm like, why would he cut off something that's robotic? Because there's no.
I know.
There's no pain.
No, there's no pain, but maybe he's like, this robot arm is too strong, so I'm gonna cut it off. I'm gonna give him a weaker robot arm.
I don't buy it.
We can make it work.
If that's what
continuity.
If that's what works in your head, I'm happy with that.
Okay. Yay.
It doesn't work in my head. I'm happy that it works in yours. But yeah, I'm curious. If you made it this far in the video, let us know what you think about that continuity error. If you've read this, how do you reconcile that difference there? But for this one, we're actually going to stop there because we're just going to do 3 chapters at a time. Right now in this season of life, that's the energy and time allotment that we have.
Yes.
And so, yeah, the next ones we have 22 through 24, and then finishing off the book with the last few chapters.
Yep.
But with that, we are 2 Star Wars nerds, and may the Force be with you
always.